Transfer talk time, Herc. Weston McKennie reportedly headed to the Premier League as part of a swap deal. Love the swap deals between Juventus and Aston Villa. In this reported deal, Villa would get McKennie, Samuel Illing Jr., plus some cash. Juve would get Douglas Luiz, the Brazilian midfielder. Herc, what do you think? You like the move for Weston?
I love the move for Weston McKennie. Absolutely love the move for Weston McKennie. Everybody wins here. Juventus are going to get the money for Weston McKennie that they absolutely desperately need. Weston McKennie is going to make the money that he feels his camp, he and his father feels that he should be making because it's the Premier League. They'll have the funds. He's going to be in the Champions League team. And here's the best part. The coach, Unai Emery. If there is a coach that can exploit all the great things about Weston McKennie, a central midfield player, make him productive, keep him productive, it's Unai Emery. I'm going to read you some names right here, okay? Douglas Luiz, Yuri Tielemans, John McGuinn, Moussa Diaby. These are players who played centrally, okay, or in that midfield in the way that he likes to compact and overload that midfield and have been very successful. 9 goals, 5 assists for Luiz. 2 goals, 6 assists for Yuri. 6 goals, 4 assists for McGuinn. Diaby had 6 goals, 8 assists. These players are productive in that system. It's an exciting system, exciting play. It's a coach who nurtures these players, who believes in these central players, likes to let them attack. Weston is a guy who likes to do these things. He's gotten the best of players who we've not seen in the longest of times, like Leon Bailey, the Jamaican international, who had a career year in the Premier League because of Unai Emery. I would love to see Weston in a system like this. I would love to see Weston coached by a guy like Unai Emery.
Do we agree, Herc, that as good of a fit as it might be, it's still a step down? I know Aston Villa right now has Champions League football, but Juventus is a massive, massive club. Like, if I were to hear out of Weston McKennie's camp or from Weston McKennie as a player that he wanted to stay at Juventus and fight for a spot there, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, Juve is still Juve, right? It's still ahead of Aston Villa in the Premier League.
Yes, and we're prisoners of the Premier League tax, and I agree with you. But in order to appease everybody in this situation, Juventus, who's clearly not what Juventus was. Juventus, who's clearly in the need for money. Weston McKennie, who wants the money. Aston Villa, who's willing to spend the money. And what we think could be the upside of Weston playing in an environment like Aston Villa's today, I will tell you that it's not a step down. Certainly in terms of history, in terms of where the clubs are, you can make that argument. But in terms of football and his growth, I think it's a step up for him.
How big is Champions League football for you with him? Because it might only last a year at Villa. And at Juve, I think you can
what was the Champions League? What was the Champions League football for Juve last season?
Wow. I mean, they'd have it now.
The instability of Juventus would want me for Weston to seek greener pastures.
Okay, there it is. Aston Villa, perhaps the leading candidate right now for Weston McKennie's services.
Luis Miguel's going to have some words
later
for you, by the way.
Summer. That's right. Hey, we never, ever would dog Aston Villa here on this fine program. Let's move on to the Bundesliga, where we have some managerial news. Borussia Dortmund have confirmed that Nuri Sahin is going to be their new manager. Of course, taking over at the Champions League runners-up for Edin Terzic. Sahin's young, man, just 35 years old. And, of course, Dortmund is still Gio Reyna's club, despite the fact that he spent the past few months at Nottingham Forest in the Premier League on loan. What do you think this has to do with Gio Reyna's future, Herc? Good news, bad news, indifferent?
I'm not indifferent, and I don't think it's bad news. And the more I research this very young coach who was a player coach out in Turkey, and he has history with Dortmund, how young he broke onto the scene in Dortmund, how he spoke about Jurgen Klopp and his experiences playing for Jurgen Klopp, and what he learned from Jurgen Klopp, and what he didn't like from other coaches. It seems like it's a guy that can easily relate to what Giovanni Reyna is going through today. And I remember hearing from him back in April. It was a Sky Sports interview, and he says, I have to remember when I'm talking about being a coach, that it's about the human side and it's non-negotiable. I'm not the coach of a footballer, a player. I'm the coach of a human being. I kind of feel like this is where you're at with Giovanni Reyna. You can see the talent, you can see the ceiling, but you also have to remember that he's a young kid, he's a young man, still trying to find himself in this world. And if you can unlock that potential on the human side, you can bring out the player. Maybe Nuri's the guy. Maybe he's the guy. And remember, Giovanni Reyna re-signed with Dortmund right before he left for Forest. He's going to be their property for quite some time. Can you regain this young talent from a guy with perspective on the human side who knows what what's like to be that young player in the Dortmund team, stepping out into that scene? Can you regain that focus and that talent? I think there's a lot of upside here.
So you mentioned Sahin's former playing days with Dortmund. He actually left the club on his second stint just before Gio Reyna got there. And then when he gets there as an assistant at the end of this past year, he gets there as Gio Reyna's being loaned out. So in many ways, while he is deeply connected to Dortmund, he may be, more than anybody else at that club currently, a fresh set of eyeballs, somebody who can truly offer a new perspective, a fresh start to Gio Reyna. So it certainly can't hurt. It could help Herc. And we know that the makeup of that team, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of loans that may be renewed or may not be renewed. I think there's a chance there for Gio Reyna. And honestly, after what happened at Forest, it pretty much has to be at Dortmund, doesn't it? Because it's hard to imagine anyone else, unless he has a brilliant Copa America, coming in and making a move for this guy right now. He didn't put anything on tape while he was at Forest.
One, he didn't get a chance to, and two, when he did get a chance, it wasn't like he showered himself in glory. This is a player that right now needs Dortmund more than Dortmund needs him. So this is something that has to happen for him.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on Gio Reyna's future. Could help a lot if he has a big tournament in the coming weeks for the U.S. men's national team. Speaking of young managers, Herc, how about Fabian Hürzeler? 31-year-old Fabian Hürzeler, former Futbol Americas guest. He, of course, got FC St. Pauli promoted from Bundesliga 2 up to the top division in Germany. And he's since been hired to take over Brighton in the Premier League. You'll remember he's got a Swiss dad, German mom, but was born in Houston, Texas. And he's now the youngest manager in Premier League history. What do you think? He'll be in for any more extra scrutiny as a Premier League manager for the fact that he was born in Houston, Texas?
All right, let's put some context in this. American managers in the Premier League, especially the Premier League, are heavily criticized. And I'm talking about the likes of Bob Bradley, Jesse Marsh, who were mimicked, they were mocked, they were made fun of, the Ted Lasso tax, if you will. They had that brand on them that the Yanks don't know anything, they don't know footy, they call it soccer, et cetera, et cetera. They were laughed at.
Even Chris Armas got some of that, if you remember.
Chris Armas got that as well, and it's very unfair.
United.
And it's very unfair. It's unfair to these guys, it's unfair to Americans, it's unfair to a lot of people who don't know any better. David Wagner didn't get that. David Wagner's American as well. They wouldn't speak of David Wagner, the Yank, David Wagner, the Ted Lasso, David Wagner this, you know. It was David Wagner, the coach from the Bundesliga. It was David Wagner, you know, the German coach sometimes. It was never David Wagner, Ted Lasso, make fun of him. Fabian Hürzeler is going to come through the same type of thing. It's the David Wagner treatment because he's not a guy from New Jersey, because he's not Bob Bradley, because he's not Jesse Marsh, because he doesn't have the accent. He's not going to have those stereotypes over him, which is a good thing. He shouldn't have them to begin with. He's a very talented coach. And by the way, Brighton is a team that when it comes to their recruits, and I'm talking about the players, knock it out the park. They do their homework. Now they found somebody that they think they can knock it out the park with, and he happens to be American. This is a great thing.
Great thing. This is a great thing for U.S. soccer, and I'm with you. I think the fact that his background is what it is will insulate him a little bit from the sometimes harsh American criticisms that we've seen the other guys get. But man, this is massive. Brighton, they've hired some big names. They can be kind of a stepping stone to other big jobs for managers. That's really exciting. And remember, when he was on this show, he told us that he had ties to U.S. soccer in the past. He'd represented U.S. soccer. I think he told us at an under-20 tournament. So this is a guy, and he told us he was going to be coming back this summer for some Copa America. He keeps an eye on Major League Soccer. This is a guy who has a connection to U.S. soccer. We don't have many American coaches anywhere in Europe, let alone in the Premier League. So having him there is a great thing. You know who I thought of, though, when I saw this news, Herc? Who the first person I thought of? Pellegrino Matarazzo. I thought he must be looking over there and saying, I took a team up from Bundesliga 2, and then I took another team to European competition that no one thought I would get to, and I haven't gotten a Premier League call yet. Here's this guy who's 31 years old, gets FC St. Pauli up, and he's already got a Premier League job. This is a shocking hire, really, at 31 years old. What an achievement.
But we see this in professional sports all the time now. Basketball, football, NFL, we see this all the time. Other sports, everybody's looking for the next young wonder kid. You know, Sean McVay.
Fabian Hürzeler,
to
the
Reds.
JJ Redick of
Everybody's
of-
looking
of
for these
European
the
managers.
next young thing. It is nothing to do with Pellegrino Matarazzo, who's a obviously very good coach. And it's not my opinion or your opinion or the fact that he's been on the show 4 times. Thanks, Pellegrino. It's his record and what he's done. Obviously, he's a talented coach. But everybody wants the next wonder kid now.
Yeah, and I just wonder when U.S. soccer fans are going to start to find out about Heurzeler like they started to find out about Materazzo, and the next time there's an opening, or maybe even after Copa America, if there's some pressure, if Fabian Hürzeler's name starts getting thrown around, just like Jesse Marsch's name did before that. All right, a good time to remind you, ESPN FC is not just on 7 days a week, huh? We're also throwing a summer tournament special your way starting Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. You're going to be seeing it on ESPN Plus as well as ESPN2. That's right, ESPN FC, live on ESPN Plus and on your television screens starting Thursday.